Hello, and welcome to another episode of
the Super Data Brothers Super Show.
That's right. I am Ryan.
I am Eric.
And we are two real-life brothers who work in the data and analytics industry. And have we got a good one for you today, folks?
You know, Ryan, I'm so excited for today's show because we are talking with Eevamajia Virtanen. All right, I think I got that close enough, Eva. Once we
were
bring
practicing.
You on, we were practicing in the intro, but in the talk beforehand. So, yeah, it's an exciting show today because we've got Eva coming on, and the topic is basically like data engineering jobs. What's happening? What's happening in the data engineering world? And like I think Eva's a very in tune person to talk to about this.
Absolutely. And listen, folks, this is a live show. And what that means is that it's more fun for us and it's more fun for you if you get your questions and comments and reactions into the chat. We will read them live, like our dear friend Paul Mendelson, who's checking in from Israel and says that he is digging the stash. Thank you, Paul. Yeah. I think this is the debut of the mustache on the Super Data Brothers show.
I think so. A few days ago, your beard was a little shorter. I'm like, you look like Omni-Man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have the physique of Omni-Man too. So listen, we're going to bring Eva on in a second. Let us know where you're watching from, by the way, and we'll always give you a shout out like Carl Sokolov. I believe, Carl, you're watching from Austria, correct? Good to have you here on the show. So folks, we're excited to talk to Eva. Before we get started, of course, very important announcement we have to make. We have a season sponsor for season 3 of the Super Data Brothers show that we'd like to thank here at the top of the show, and that is our season sponsor, Good Data. That's right, folks, Good Data. As you all know, I work there, and they generously stepped up to sponsor this entire season. They're underwriting the whole season of the Super Data Brothers show. What is Good Data, you may find yourself asking? Listen, if you need an analytics platform that can scale to tens of thousands of users, thousands of unique environments, and allow you to manage all that effectively, efficiently, and profitably with a small team, that's what Good Data is focused on. So you think about the BI landscape, there's lots of BI tools out there, but if you have the problem of speed and scale to deliver analytics to your customers, Good Data is what you need. What does it have? It's got all sorts of stuff. Super fast in-memory cache, a great self-service BI environment, an AI-driven chatbot, working on all sorts of, I'm here at Data Council in Oakland this week. Everybody's talking about agents. We're building agents too here at Good Data. So if you need that type of BI environment, check Good Data out. And again, we'd like to thank them for sponsoring this season of the Super Data Brothers show. All right. So a couple other people to shout out. We've got Hafiz watching from Pakistan. And then we've got LinkedIn user watching from Berlin. And LinkedIn user saying hello. So, folks, if you don't make your LinkedIn...
That's Steve Kalpins. I'm looking at the... Okay.
If you don't have a public LinkedIn profile, it will never show your name here on the Super Data Brothers show. That's an integration.
And sometimes if you do, sometimes it won't anyway. So I don't know what...
Yeah, it's very strange.
All right. The integration is weird. Oh, and one more. Yep. That's that hello is from Juha Corpella.
All right. All right, so listen, let's bring Eva on.
Hold on, I've got an intro to the topic.
All right,
compilation, like I sometimes do. Okay.
Okay.
Within a year, I lost my job.
I lost my job, my wife, my home.
I lost my job.
Went through a rough patch, and I just lost my job.
I lost my job.
First, I lost Lucy, and then I lost my job as the gatekeeper.
I lost my job. I lost my house.
I lost my job. You haven't asked me how I'm doing.
I lost my job and I don't know why.
I lost my job a month ago. It's been like animal.
I lost my job today.
I lost my job.
Who told you I lost my job?
I made it.
I lost my job.
I lost my job.
There we go.
All right. Well, what an uplifting intro to bring you onto the show here, Eeva.
I threw that one together real quick. I didn't have time to pick
I needed
more
a trigger
uplifting.
warning because it was very like
Very
just
triggering. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry for the dour intro, but
Yeah. And on that note, welcome to the show, Eevamajia. We're
Thank
really
you.
excited to have you. So we first met you, I think, at the Day-to-Day Texas conference earlier this year, which
Yep.
we go to every year. Great conference. But why don't you introduce yourself to the Super Data Brothers show audience?
Okay, hi, I'm Eevamajia Virtanen. You almost said it like perfectly with that NHL announcement.
Okay.
Way. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a senior data engineer slash data architect slash, kitchen psychologist slash everything, a hack really. But just doing a bunch of stuff in data these days. My background is in project management and business process development. I worked a long time with data without really knowing that I was working with data because it's, I was doing a lot of integration projects and IT projects where you have to define basically, the data that is flowing and the decision-making processes and so on. So that was really helpful. Becoming a data engineer, I just needed to get that SQL and Python going and, the drill, and then got into data modeling and stuff like that. So learning every day still. Been doing this for a few years now. I'm a co-founder in Infinity, and we work for we're solving healthcare data problems, and also founder of Helsinki Data Week with Juha, who was there saying hello. And then we have two other founders, Sade and Antti. And I also have a Data Tribe community, which I founded, and we have a lot of meetups in the Helsinki area.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit, because I have FOMO for Helsinki Data Week now.
Oh, good.
It just looks so cool. So can you tell us a
is.
little bit about Helsinki Data Week and the data scene in Helsinki in general?
Well, it's a vibe. I think in general, like Finns are we are very down to earth, very quirky. Our presidents can like walk just, down the street. Nobody bothers them, and
just like in America.
I know. Yeah. It was funny when I think Trump and Putin were visiting Helsinki a few years back. You can imagine two men with, ego size of our country. It was really like the security was amazing. Like everywhere was helicopters and, like everything. The whole city was like stopped for that day when they were like moving around. And after they left, our president went and just had a beer in a local pub with one security, It was hilarious, So, yeah, don't make enemies.
That's awesome. What are the so how long has Helsinki Data Week been going?
We started last year.
So it was the first one. So the first one.
This is the second one, this year.
That's incredible because it just seemed like I mean, from afar, it seemed like such a big deal.
Yeah.
So
well, then I think people got excited about it. It's very indie. We're not any like vendor owned, so it's like we can decide what is gonna what we want to have as topics or how we want to approach the field. But mostly, it's like we needed a space where everybody can just gather and talk. Like we wanted to, because we have like multiple disciplines within data that don't talk to each other, which is hilarious. Like, we have the data modelers and like data management, we have data governance, then data engineers, architects even, and so on. So we wanted a space where everybody can come, and also the business folks, and so that we succeeded with that. Our friend, it was all free. We had 5 days of events. I think we had 13 events with our partners. We hosted the main day with the speakers. We had Joe Rees, Ula Senpanya, Vin Vashista there, and also our partners. But yeah, great. We had
that's
a good
incredible.
Yeah. And
we're trying to put together something in the Detroit area, and it's just going to be one day with and that's really hard. I cannot fathom your very first edition of Helsinki Data Week being this much content and this big. Like, how did you pull it off?
We also have great friends like these speakers who I just mentioned who want to support our event and show up. So I think it's all about like relationships being built before we started thinking about this, and it was like we are all like makers, builders, so we wanted to build an event space for us, not just to sell stuff or which is like we just wanted to do that. And I think people like the vibe, especially now when the world is quite crazy. I think people just need a community. So I think that is one of the reasons the vibe is good, because it's just people meeting people.
That's awesome. Let me give a few shout outs here. We've got Christopher watching from Tennessee. We've got Sarthak watching from Delaware. We got Ram tuning in from Boston, Gregory tuning in from Kansas, and then of course Helsinki Data Week 2025, October 28th through 31st.
This is how you do it. The guerrilla marketing.
There you go.
I do want to kind of key in on one thing you said, which I is very true, and that is all the disciplines we have in data and how they don't talk to one another. So I'm here at Data Council in Oakland, and it's been very interesting. They should really just call it AI Council, I think, in the future. But I overheard someone, I was having lunch and I overheard someone say, I'm a data scientist and I never talk to the BI team ever. And she just thought that was crazy and was wondering why that is. And I'd throw the question to you, like what, you started Helsinki Data Week to try to get these disciplines talking to one another. Why don't they, in your opinion? What is it that's preventing us from working together
it's
more
very
cohesively?
I think it's built in the design of the companies, I think, because if you blame the system is not wrong. It was designed that way, just maybe not on purpose, but that's how the system works. If it's not inbuilt within incentives, like you have to collaborate or you share goals or you're not competing, there's a lot. But also it's a lot to do with human behavior. Like we're very I think tribal, but we can be also like within our own tribes, I think. And it's also the introverted nature of people. It's hard to say like one particular like why, but I think it's like multiple reasons. And the more I've been working with organizations and data, there's like these patterns that repeat, and I really want to research them, and I've been doing that for the last year. And I think like it all comes to like things like trust and power dynamics and very like human things. So we can talk tools and AI all day long, but if we don't talk to the person in the next room or like even like in the Slack, we have to start building those bridges first, which is the infrastructure, which is the people these days. So I could go on and on about this.
No, I mean, I think it's one of the most important topics facing our industry. I think it's just really it was just to hear it encapsulated so succinctly. Yeah, just overhear that like, oh, I never talked to the BI team and I'm a data scientist. How do you think we can start to overcome this? Like, what do you have any advice? Say, what would you say to that data scientist who says, gee, I have no idea what BI is doing, and maybe
go and have a beer with that person or lunch, or just like learn to talk to them. I think it's like we are seriously like we have to relearn how to be human. That's I think like we are like so out of it. like we're all not feeling well and like sort of sick in this machine that is sort of we feel all this, you have to be productive and efficient, and nobody's talking about how, you know, it's important that you actually spend time with your colleagues anymore. This was like after COVID even like got like worse. I mean, I work remotely a lot because I'm a hermit, but I do talk to people a lot on Slack and, you know, LinkedIn or whatever. So I try to keep social still. And, you know, yeah, I think it's just the organizations should build some of that time there for people to actually meet and be together.
Yeah, I can I can talk a bit because we had this problem. I work for Michigan State University, a university in the state of Michigan, in the United States, in case anyone was wondering. And we had this problem because we had a BI team and we had a data science team, and they were under completely different umbrellas, essentially. So what we had happening was the data scientists, first of all, if they could find out, if they could find any work to do in the first place, which was a struggle. I find that can be a struggle sometimes. Like data science team, like, okay, well, what do we do here? I know how to make these models, but what next, right? So they were just basically creating models, and they had no like organizational knowledge of how to get that information to actual end users. And you have the BI team, whereas that's literally all they know how to do. They don't know how to do any of like these like predictive modeling, but they know how to get reports sent out, right? And so these were two completely separate organizations, and like through like departments and through reorgs, which happen all the time everywhere in the universe, they were put together under like basically the same team. And since that's happened, it's like all of a sudden it's like the data science team knows how to get all the different data. Like if someone comes to the BI team with a question about something more advanced, we want this predictive stuff, like, oh, we can shoot you over the data science team, and when they're ready, we can get those reports scheduled to send out every Friday. So like I feel like organizationally, like just put these two groups under the same umbrella and you've got half the problem solved. A lot of times they don't even know each other exist. Like the data science team might not even know what the word BI means.
It's true, and we have all these like assumptions or like prejudice might be going like, you know, some teams think like, okay, they wouldn't understand us, or, you know, who knows, but you know, it's basically just like talking to each other, you know? How simple. It's like it's the same thing like having enough sleep, eating healthy, and exercising. These are very simple things, very hard to do.
Yeah. We have a couple comments here. First of all, we've got a hello from Croatia. I love Croatia, by the way. Beautiful place. Beautiful. So welcome. And then a comment from Paul. He says, I find that the data scientists and BI teams tend to be focused on drastically different things. It's a shame since the skills would really complement one another. And then Paul's follow-up, data scientist SQL tends to be interesting, while most BI guys go glassy-eyed when you talk about chi-squares. And so I think that's definitely kind of what we're talking about here, Paul. I mean, it's, you know, they have different domains of expertise, certainly, but there's no reason that there should be this huge wall between those domains, right? They complement each other so well. And then we've got this quote from Bindu, Jira is the root of all evil. Everything is done through it. We have a term at Good Data. We call it the Jirocracy.
The Jirocracy?
Yeah. So like, you know, we're always trying to tear down the Jirocracy here at Good Data, because we really got in the habit of like everything was just done through Jira. And it's important to track your work and that sort of thing, but it really can be a barrier in getting things done. I'm curious, Eva, like what sort of organizational structures have you seen that work the best, as far as, you know, we've got data science, we've got BI, we've got data engineering. Should they all really be one team, or how do you think about that?
A consultant answer. It depends. All right.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Check. Bingo. I think saying it depends because it's also about the maturity and the size of the teams, I would say, how it would work. But I would say keep these people sharing incentives and understanding how they could work as a team and force that. And it, it might be uncomfortable first, but it's also like empathy to each other. You might not understand the other person's job and they might not understand yours, but you could still help each other a lot. And that's actually leadership, which is something that I feel like being data driven was just slapped on like as a sticker to a lot of organizations without actually changing anything in the organizations to become data driven. So isn't it like, it's like now we're wondering, why isn't this like working? Like, because data it doesn't respect organizational structures. It's like it goes through the walls and hierarchies, and it's like a litmus test of how it flows in the organization and who fills data where and who takes care of their things. And it can measure a lot about the culture in general, how data is being used.
Yeah,
yeah,
I definitely see that. Like people, oh, we're data driven now. What does that mean? I don't know. Right? That's very common. I think Gregory's question here kind of fits in nicely with what we're talking about. He says, I wonder though how the role of analytics engineer plays and interacts with these silos. Could data teams just be analytics engineers? My sense says no. I'm curious what you think of that.
I think like the word analytics engineer is something that should first be spoken. Like, what do you mean by analytics engineer? I don't mean a DBT person necessarily. I think analytics engineer is someone who knows the data models really well and knows the business needs as well, and also is respected by the data platform team that can code just enough to get their respect, which means that you work with them and also works well with the other business and analysts. And it's like the most value providing role, I would say, in the organization these days, because the platform is like getting a lot more mature in many organizations these days. We don't have the same problems as it was like 5 years ago. So now I think it's like a lot of cost has been put up this big data platform team, which is like data engineers, but just a few analytics engineers. And to me now the ratio should be changed in the sense that I think when you start like making the data more valuable starts when you start using your data models and explain to the business how you can actually, what you need from this or how you can use this. So then you start getting the value. So I think now the ratio maybe that's one of the reasons of this, I lost my job. I don't know. But I think there should be a pivot with data engineers starting to look more towards the business. I would say I've seen a lot of arrogance in data teams from the data engineers not wanting to talk to the business because they could, but I don't think they can anymore. Sorry.
I think you're right. I think you're right. That and that gets us nicely to kind of the the clickbait title of today's episode, which is about the data engineering job crunch. I'm curious.
Got to make clickbait faces.
Yeah, yeah. You see a lot.
Pretty good.
There's a lot of I was just gonna. Someone just typed here. A LinkedIn user says shift right, and I want to bring that up. So you see a lot of the shift left movement, and I think that there's obvious value there, like moving data steps earlier on in the process, closer to the source data itself, gives you obvious advantages. But I do think there's a danger in it, and that's kind of what you're highlighting here, which is if your work may shift left, but your thinking needs to stay on the right, which is where the business users are, right? In your classic data flow diagram. And I'm curious, what is your advice for someone who's a data engineer who either through habit or comfort or because the expectations of their role has really not been focused on business people and has just been focused on solving the engineering problems? How do you make that shift to be able to work with the business and understand the business more efficiently?
You need to be more humble. You need to be curious. You need to start thinking of yourself as a huge investment to the company, salary wise. If it's, usually what the data engineers are making in the States, I think it's a huge investment for the company to keep that data engineer. If they're not showing their value, it's almost like buying another company. You should think yourself as you are your own enterprise that the other company is buying. So why do they want to buy you? What do you bring to the table? And it's kind of silly to think that you're not supposed to adapt ever, that whatever you were doing yesterday is fine today. I think, well, I was just joking, like in the other podcast the other day, like I've reinvented myself more times than Cher and Madonna together. Like I've had like many careers, and like I've lived in 5 to 6 countries. So it's like I have done my share of reinventing. So I think you have to be comfortable adapting, and that is the like issue here. It's actually like they use this adaptive quotient. So it's not like IQ, EQ, it's AQ. So it's like a whole another skill that you could start thinking about. How do you adapt and pivot and be like, and make it fun? So I've started LARPing, like personally in data. Like I think of it as like live action role play in a way that it's less stressful, and you can just play the game and become something that is just needed.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks. LARP skills, the top skill, top data skill of 2025 is LARPing.
I think so.
I think there's something to it, though, right? It almost like it relieves a little bit of the pressure if you think about it that way. Yeah,
and it's not like acting; it's just like you're playing the game.
Right.
You need this, like if we all like played in the 90s, like the DOS games, like these text games, and also like strategy games, SimCity, I don't know. You build the city, you have to think and like sort of use those skills. Now they're useful.
Yeah. No, that's very true. We have, by the way, thank you everyone. We have so many comments and questions. It's hard to even get through them all, Eva. So it's great. But let me throw. So Hafiz is really dying to know directly the answer here. What is the strategy and advice you have for kind of the data engineer role job crunch? And I don't know. I mean, maybe the job market's a little different in Finland and Europe in general. I'm not sure, but certainly here in the United States, there's been there is a bit of a data team and data engineer job crunch where the number of we had really good times for I think 2 or 3 years where every data engineer, you just call yourself a data engineer and pass a SQL test and like, here's your job, right? That reversed pretty quickly here. And so, if you could just talk to us a little bit about what you see in the job market in general for data engineers, and also your advice for kind of how to navigate these tougher times when it comes to the data engineer role.
Yeah, I think you should all come to Finland. We're looking for senior data people here. No, and also change the data to AI. So that's one. No, I'm kidding. But I think what is interesting is to start thinking like system thinking, that you start thinking about how the organization works and how you can actually sort of learn where you could bring that value. I think you need to be, if you're in a company, if you have a job, you should be already like presenting something that would help the company. And because the market is tough for the companies, it's not the data engineers' fault in that sense, I think. And I think it's also different in the States because you don't have unions for like data engineers, and like I think in Finland and
I'm actually in a union, but that's rare.
Oh yeah,
I work for a university, so I'm actually in a union.
Yeah, I think it was funny, like Data Day Texas, I think we had this like town hall, and then I think Joe Reese asked like who belongs to a union. I don't remember who it was, but I think he asked that, and then me and Ule were the only ones because he's from Denmark.
Yep.
So, but yeah, unions are good. I think get yourself into a union. I don't know. I think that should also, you need to protect yourself. you can also protect yourself by skilling up. You just need to work harder and like, not harder, but smarter. Also, if everybody's talking about AI, I think it's like, for us, it's really hard to start calling ourselves AI engineers because we know how much it takes to learn or know AI. But I think, especially for if you have a data, you know, in your title, it's like, I don't want to let go of that data because that's we know what AI is.
Yeah.
But I think we should also think like strategically, like how we could move like sort of towards that and not be like, okay, you know, you left, you know, you gave in, you became an AI, whatever. I don't know if this resonates, but I think there's like also like, it's okay. We can also move to become like more towards that, what is needed right now. There's a line, like if it's like how it actually is productive, but I think the hype is going to go down or has gone down a lot, even though they're still talking about AI. But I think like just an average company, they still need like very much advice what to do right now. And they are laying people off because they don't know what to do. They're not making new business. They're not making money. So they're laying people off is usually should be the last thing, right? So if you have ideas how to make better business with your data, which you know that what there is, and have some ideas for the business, maybe just send a few emails like, why don't we do this? I've seen so many directors or executives that don't know what data they have. So there's this pride in them not to ask too much, like, what do we do with this data? Because they should lead. So I think it's like, we have to balance this whole dynamics of the organization to survive together. So
I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially your point about unions. I mean, we just have a very different attitude here in the United States, right? Like, people think so individualistically, you know, what can I do? Like that. I mean, Hafiz's question is really, I think, framed around the idea of like, what can I do as an individual to make it so that I'm immune as much as possible to this bigger economic trend. And the reality is, and then I'll step off my soapbox here. But the reality is, as one person, there's only so much you can do, right? But as a group, you're much more powerful. And you know, Eric and I are from the Detroit area. It's one of like the union heavy parts of the United States. And so I think we kind of saw this in action a little bit with, you know, the auto industry and everything, and how like around here, around Michigan, there's lots of manufacturing jobs. Most of them are bad. The good ones are the union jobs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. If your dad can get you in the union, then it's a decent job.
I mean, I have friends, they both work in auto factories. One is in a UAW, that's the United Auto Workers factory. He makes $120,000 a year with his overtime. He has to work a lot to make that. He works a lot of overtime. My other friend works in a non-union factory, $16 an hour. So you're talking $40,000 a year. What's the difference? It's the union. But we try not to get too deep into political topics here.
Super class consciousness brothers.
Yeah, that's what we are. Right? We're going to change our name to the Super Marxist Brothers coming up.
Instead of Mario.
Yeah. So like, I'm a socialist because I'm from Finland, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
She said union. Get her out.
Some other, so we have some, I mean, there's so many good questions here. I think this one is quite interesting. What, for you, what are the main differences in responsibility between data architect and data engineer? And, you know, BI developers also model data, you know, and data champions in business areas might model data. But what's the difference between, you know, this data architect role and the data engineer role?
I think it's like what questions you're answering. I think data architect's job is to answer the why, and the data engineers is the how. And then, you know, there's like, if that is like too, I think it's a different mindset. Data architect has to think like 10 years ahead. Of course, data engineer as well, but it's more like data engineers are more focused on building the thing that really well that was given for someone who already thought of it through, like sort of how different systems work in this together. It's more just like thinking about a web or system conceptually, how it works. So systems architecture is very different because you have to think about like it's a whole nother science to that.
We have
Joe.
yeah, Joe. It's Finland's most famous data engineer. Welcome to the show, Joe.
It's the world's most famous data engineer.
Oh, there.
Hi, Joe.
But Joe, I think actually it's the perfect time to bring up some ideas that I've seen Joe talk about, and one of them is this idea of data architecture. I think that this role, in some ways, faded away a little bit. The idea that you needed to have someone who understood with that title, right? Whose job was just to understand, maintain, and proactively design the overall architecture of the system as a dedicated role. That was, early on in my career, that's kind of what I aspired to be. If you go back when I started in, say, 2009, it was like that was the job you wanted, was to, someday I'll be the data architect, right? I think that kind of went away. And I'm curious if you see, do you see that as an independent role coming back at all? Do you see people whose jobs is just to design the architecture, or is that becoming an expectation of kind of a senior data engineer to take on those responsibilities?
It's kind of strange because I don't even know what data architect really means. I've seen data architects who are data modeling experts. I've seen data architects who are like a particular tool experts, like Databricks or Snowflake, or let's say a cloud environment experts. So they know how the microservices work together, or they plan like different systems in that sense. What I would love to see as a data architect to take into the organization, like you would have to plan, because data is not just tech, it's people, processes, and tech. So it's like, why don't we architect the organization together with the, so the data can actually flow. We cannot architect data without thinking that. So I think it's very needed, super needed. Yeah.
So a couple more comments here. So Robert asks, maybe it's my experience leading and establishing smaller data teams or capabilities, but the title data engineer has always meant something more full stack, kind of ETL, data storage, building low code UIs for data products, which I think I kind of conceive of it that way too a little bit. But the question is the crunch we're talking about, is this mainly in big tech, or do you think it's across companies of all scale? And I'm curious, kind of, it might be a little different in Finland versus the United States, but what's your feel on that? Like, is it, or is this even happening in Finland? Do you guys have a shortage of data engineers and you're not experiencing this yet?
I think there's a huge need for senior data engineers. So maybe that is that data architect role you mentioned. Like, is it senior engineers or data architect? I think the problems that need to be solved, they change, right? So I think there was a problem that we needed to build platforms. And this could be also like you would build different things. Now it's maintaining that, but what do you do next? What are the biggest problems right now? How does the business make money? How do you help in that? So I think thinking what are the problems in the next year or two that my company needs to solve? How can I help? Forget the title. So this is changing of the environment. This is the change of the economy. I don't even think the better days are going to come anymore. I think these are post. Now the socialist part of me is coming again, but I think it's like post neoliberalism times that we are like, these are the last breaths of like post capitalism, which was growth, right? But where does the growth come from? GDP was, I think, that meter, if we use that as a how we measure and what is the goal to grow the GDP, that was I think 1740s that measurement was designed. So why are we using, companies should change every 6 months their KPIs, right? Why are we still using this GDP as our goal as countries to grow? Why? I don't think nobody's asking that or reorganizing our thinking. I think we should go more local in our thinking and support our local businesses and think how we can work in that scale and sort of become that community again, because that helps to balance your economy. If you become more local based and community based, then you have a lot more stable system. I don't know if I don't even know how this started the question, but yeah.
Well, I think this viewer's comment really is appropriate. It's starting to sound more like shift left again.
Yes. I'm gonna bring red flags here.
Yeah, I do think there's.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Eva.
I was just saying, I think, I'm a liberal, right, sort of thinking. I'm socially liberal, but I think very conservative economically. I think, there has to be a good reason and why you support certain, what is the government's duty or state's duty. So these needs to be, all of these need to be redesigned within the next 5 years, I would say. In a lot of countries,
AI will do it, right? That's what we're.
AI will do it. ChatGPT will help you, but the problem is when you use ChatGPT, it becomes an echo chamber. So if you're a narcissist and you're
ChatGPT it's just an affirmation engine. It's
it would
is this a good idea? Yes, this is a good idea.
Yes, but I have made my ChatGPT custom. If I'm spiraling or if I'm I've given it directions. If I think this is a good idea and it's not, please tell me. So it's actually it became so rude. I actually got offended and because I was really excited about my idea. And I was sharing it with my bot, and then it was no, that's no. You should rethink. I'm change. I'll show you.
It really does. I do the same thing though. I will prompt it are you only telling because it agrees with everything I say. It's this is an awesome idea. You should really do this.
Mine started talking like a Zoomer. It's whoa, that is a cool point. It's brother, why are you talking to me
so funny. This? And then you realize it's you've been lying to me this whole time.
Tell me what I want to hear. Whispering sweet nothings to me.
It really. And I think it's clear. If I had to, look, I wouldn't be surprised if what they're doing is the same thing that happened on social media, right? Which is over time they tune the algorithms more and more to just keep us interacting with the system. And and what made that
means affirming us. Yeah.
Yeah, it means affirming you. It seems on social media, it seems to be affirming you and enraging you. If they can do those two things, you're right and everyone else is wrong, then you'll keep clicking the button, And I wonder if they're doing the same thing at ChatGPT. If it just tells you you're always right, you'll always go to it for advice.
You can change
Claude,
that.
which doesn't, or whatever it does. Okay.
I think that is the default setting for not getting
all right, so
we've
got questions. We've got 15 minutes left, so I just kind of want to quickly go through some of these.
But Eric, before we do that, we have to do an ad read.
Okay, right now?
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and answer some questions. Hey, everybody, we would like to thank our season sponsor for season 3 of Super Data Brothers show, Good Data. Good Data is an analytics as code platform that lets you develop and deploy analytics products at huge scale. So what is the problem Good Data solves? It is when you have tens of thousands of users, thousands of unique environments that you need to support, and you need to be able to do it efficiently and profitably with the team you have today. With other BI tools, doing this is going to require you to hire 1,000 people. But with Good Data, you're going to be able to do it with the team, with an efficient team by embracing things like CI/CD, software engineering principles, code-first approach to analytics. And so Good Data has seen huge success across industries with people who are looking to scale analytics products effectively and rapidly to meet their end user needs. So we want to thank them for sponsoring season 3 of the Super Data Brothers show. And with that, let's dive back into the questions.
Yeah. Okay. I've got some questions. There've been a lot, but so
we're gonna go rapid fire here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready, Eeva? All right.
Okay. So and then all right, Gregory, what advice do you give to data engineers that are adapting to be more business focused? Is marrying their pipelines to how they support business initiatives? Do they need to move horizontally and do some analyst work? I'll pipe in with mine. The answer is yes. If you spend some time, make a couple Power BI reports for whatever business and whatever domain, right? For someone, it's just like, your job is like data engineer, so you're not making Power BI reports, but just make, or Tableau, or whatever it is, make some directly with a user for some reports, and you'll find out so much about what they actually care about, and you can take that back to your actual data engineering, and maybe do some of that, shift left based on the insights you get from them. That's what I would say. Create some Power BI reports or whatever tool your organization uses.
Yeah.
Play with the data, the insight, like what it means.
Yeah. To take it all the way through, I think is really the idea. Don't stop at, hey, I created that view in Snowflake, and now I'm done. Right? Move. See if you can go all the way through to talking to that business person to find out what they really want. I'm curious what you think of that, Eeva.
I think that is the last mile that a lot of data engineers just drop their gloves. Like, you could go that like last meter and just like help sort of connect what you did and help the next person who's going to take it forward, what your insights were, what you know about this, I think, and help each other connect. Those are bridge skills, by the way. So you build bridges in the company.
Yep. And like Robert agrees with your assessment here, it's all about integrating your flows and pipelines with business processes, more communication, more integration, and more impact.
Yep.
And what else we got here? We got Bill with basically saying there are all these different job titles. I would like to see an agency come together with a handful of titles and areas that have common meaning to everyone in companies. Not easy, but it could be helpful. Thoughts? Yeah,
I think the thing is, like, I think as a consultant, it's very hard to think what my title is because it should help the customer. It should be saying like, how do I help the customer? This is a service job, by the way. Not many data people think like that, or data engineers, but it is a service job at its heart. Like, you should be serving not just the product, but like really customer service.
Forget the title, solve the problems your business wants to solve. And then
help your business.
Yep. See, the title solutions architect basically requires all of those skills.
That was my title when I was in consulting.
Solutions architect.
Yeah,
I was a solutions architect.
And solutions engineer, but a lot of people think that's pre-sales these days because that's
true.
Like, yeah.
Oh yes, because a sales engineer, or is that what they call it sometimes too for the pre-sales these days? Let's see. We need more data librarians. What data engineers to get raw domain knowledge efficiently, right? And then
that's a new thing, by the way. We have so much to learn about librarians.
That's true. The Dewey decimal. Implement the Dewey decimal system.
I remember that.
For those not aware, that was the library for organizing books back in the day. These days, it's all digital, but back in the day,
for the young people in our audience,
books. No.
And then Robert asks, does this data engineering crunch benefit or harm independent consultants and contractors? So I'm kind of curious your take on that. How is the consulting business in data engineering, and do you think that's getting better or worse?
That's a tough one. I think consultants is also like, there's not like one type of consultant because I know really good ones and really bad ones. So, and still they get paid. But I mean, I guess it's how consultants have to think like how you're going to serve the customers as well. But I think they are very good. Some of them are really good pretending they know what they're talking about, and they get paid a lot. So, unlike some of them who are like really good, but might be shyer, quieter, not that salesy, but really, really brilliant, are not good at getting the clients. So I don't know, maybe again, group of people would make a better job maybe together
Yeah.
in this market.
I mean, as a consultant, I can tell you definitely the number one thing you're doing is making the customer feel like you're solving their problem.
Yes.
Right? That's the number one thing you're selling is that feeling. And you can sell that feeling for a long time.
For long enough.
Eventually, the
Yeah.
reality will come home to roost.
Yeah.
But you can sell that feeling for a long time.
What's that? That IBG YBG?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard this? It stands for I'll be gone, you'll be gone.
Oh,
So it's like oh, we're not doing this the right way. Yeah, but IBG YBG, so who cares?
Yeah. There's definitely some of that going on. And then the data engineering channel, you've had some good comments, so I want to get you up here. With the pendulum swinging back and forth, do you see reconsolidation of data roles into one position? Right.
I think it will always be moving.
Yeah.
I don't think we can really. The market decides in that sense, or what we make out of it decides. We just need to be open-minded and get creative.
Yeah. Part of me thinks that the actual role of any of these positions will consolidate, while at the same time the titles are fracking. Right? You could get hired as a BI engineer, a data engineer, a data architect, and like if you're hired as that title, that doesn't in really any meaningful way correlate to what you're going to be doing. So like these roles will just be like, hey, can you do the data stuff we need? And this is the title we've been using.
Yeah.
So sure.
Can you make our life easier? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, I think a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, that you saw a lot of, data scientists. And it's like, well, what do you do? Well, I make Tableau dashboards. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And the same thing is maybe true of data engineer to some extent. Like an analytics engineer. I mean, certainly the people's, especially the analytics engineer title is so tightly tied, or at least was, to, oh, I use DBT. But I don't know that that's necessarily true anymore, right? It becomes, it becomes much more broad. I see Ram has a question here. Question to Ryan Eric. What?
Brother, if I had the answer to that question.
Little
can
John.
You tell me? Yeah. What? The question Little John has been asking for ages.
Yeah.
And yet,
I don't know if
still grappling with the answer.
I think he's teaching yoga these days. I saw a video somewhere.
All right.
Yeah.
He did ask a question I don't think we got to. Curious if we're using, he wants to know if we're using AI to code, doing vibe coding and in general, and then, do we see any specific security concerns around vibe coding? And I think yes, but I'm curious what you think, Eva.
Is it about like, what do you think about the security concerns in sense that, are you training the model with your data or information?
Yeah, I think there's that. I mean, I think there's a security concern just in general around the code that vibe coding produces. Like, is it taking into account? Yeah.
You're still very much responsible. It's just a tool, but you're still responsible. It's like you have a hammer and it takes you through the window. You're still responsible that it went through the window. You broke the window, I think we haven't. This is actually very interesting. I'm writing an article about this, but we need to rethink about like this power shift if we're going to have like AI augmented teams, because in HR, every person is a burden to somebody. Like somebody is in charge or takes their like blame in a way, but who takes the burden of an AI if there is an AI agent, let's say, wild and free, and if they make like a machine learning model makes a big mistake, like bias or whatever, and it's like, who takes the responsibility then? So these kind of issues need to be discussed in the future as well. Like, how do we deal with this? Because I think when you know what you're doing with help of a bot or whatever, it helps. But there's so many like human, like we just discussed earlier, that we can get like really lost really quickly if we trust everything. It's like going to these woods where there's like these good fairies and bad fairies, and they will tell you where to go, and you have to be very like knowledgeable of the routes you're taking, not trust everyone's advice.
Yes, I mean you bring up a great point. Like who gets blamed when the bot messes up, and it's even, you know, when it was a model built by your internal data scientists or ML team. Yeah. Okay, like you know, you could blame them, I guess. But when it's like, it was Gemini that messed up, or it was ChatGPT that messed up, you know, who's responsible?
Maybe it'll be like with these cloud services, because like if as a university, if we are running a service like in our like data warehouse or our servers, and it goes down, it's a big problem, and like it's our fault. But if Microsoft Teams goes down or Zoom goes down, it's like, well, it's down for everyone in the United States. Nothing we can do. Not my fault.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if part of it will transition to that in some way.
Yeah. It's also interesting if it's a shadow IT, like you're just using it, like, and then you get a problem, or if it's actually IT infrastructure that the company has chosen, that this is the tool and this is how you use it and this is where it is. You know, these have to be thought as well.
We try to avoid sometimes like really complicated what tools should I use questions here on the show, but I think we have a really pointed one from this guy Joe.
Yeah.
He says, should I use MS Access and SharePoint for my data lakehouse? Thoughts on that?
I will bring Access back. It's a really, really good database tool, which is a beautiful, like just the pink, you know, and SharePoint. Oh God, dear Lord.
Yes. I think that's a yes. You should use those tools.
I think, you know, I would read that book.
Okay. All right. We've got about 5 minutes left. So I'm just going to rapid fire go through some of your comments, and then we'll kind of do our final outros, and let you Eva have the last word.
Yeah.
All right. Data engineering guy, love the conversation. Back in my day, we were just called the data guy. Back when we were doing crystal reports.
Crystal reports, yeah.
Yep. And then Greg, you know, when I started, I was hired as a BIA, and then like I ended up doing all this other stuff. So like, yeah, it's like the title and what you do, not necessarily connected. And then this question I wanted to get to: what about the global job market and difference between salaries levels in different parts of the world, and the fact that remote work opens possibilities for business to get the same skills for less? My just one sentence response would be, you are getting it for less, but you're not necessarily getting the same skills or quality. I've definitely come in to like fix reports for people, and I look at how the reports are built, and I'm like, what was going on? And because it was built by a cheap overseas team, and like who probably never actually used the tool before. So like, sometimes if you're lucky, you can get the same skills less, but a lot of times you may find if it's cost less, that's for a reason.
Quality control is very hard
when
you're doing like you know, like transnational outsourcing. It's just very hard. I would say, listen, the other thing is you can flip this thing on its head, right? Like within the United States or between countries, you know, we live in Michigan. It's just a relatively low cost of living area, but I work for a company that's headquartered in San Francisco, right? And so, you know, you can also use this to your advantage to some degree if you want to live in a low cost of living area. You know, you can still, thanks to remote work, get a job that pays on par with the salaries in a higher cost of living area. You know, I mean, what is the remote work and return to office like? Is in Finland? Are you guys back in the office, or what is the culture there as far as remote work?
I think people go to the office, but not every day of the week. I think it's a vibe thing. Like if I feel like going to the office, like especially with introverts, you know, you have to like, do I want to be social today or not? Or, you know, is there something important? But it's definitely important. Like I was saying earlier, let's bring people together. I don't care if it's the office, go to the beach or woods, you know, just do something fun together. We all need it. So let's not forget that part.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour here. I want to thank you for coming on, Eevamajia. What a great conversation. I knew I was so excited to have you be the first guest of season 3 of the Super Data Brothers, because I knew you were going to kick ass. And you did. So thank you. Where can people follow you?
In Finland. I live here in one city if you want to follow me, but I'm not going to tell you where. On LinkedIn.
There you go. You heard it. You heard it here, folks. Follow her on
Here
LinkedIn,
first.
not in real life.
No, I don't like that.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you. Thank you again for coming on the show. So, listen. Next week we have probably the most important episode of Super Data Brothers that we will ever record. It could literally save your life. So we're bringing Holden Corral on to talk about her project Fight Health Insurance. This is an AI that she built that will can interpret your health insurance denial letter and give you a step-by-step plan on how to get the healthcare you need approved. So for people like Eevamajia who live under the tyranny of socialism, this is probably not a big deal. But for those of us in the United States, you know that your health insurance company can just decide they're not going to pay for your life-saving care, and then you're shit out of luck. This is an AI that will help you deal with that. So we're going to go deep into the story of why Holden built this, how it works, and how you can use it to get the health insurance, to get the health care that you need if you find yourself in a situation where the health insurance company has sent you a denial letter. I'm super pumped for this. And I think it will actually, we talk about data engineering and all this other stuff, and it's important. Your career is very important, but like this episode could be life or death for you. So
it's like, wait, that AI that's not being used for evil, it's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, honestly, I think it's like, what a great use case for AI. I mean, I saw that Holden made this, and I said, we have to get her on the show because this is great.
Yep.
So tune in next week for that. Same time as always, Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern time here for the Super Data Brothers show. Any last words, Eric, before we wrap up here?
No. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Great audience, great guest. Some of your comments here. This felt like the Jolly Dataversity webinar Q&A. Bravo, team and guest. Oh, thank you. Ram coming in. Thank you for all the talk. It is insightful. Thank you all. Some smiley faces. Thank you all. And then Joe, thanks. God bless. I think that was in response
God
for
bless you
asking him
too,
how to use MS Access.
Yes. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. You were a great audience. Listen, every Thursday at this time, we broadcast live, and you can always catch our show on replay on demand on YouTube. The entire show archive is available at any time. So check us out on YouTube. Follow us there. Thanks for joining us. YouTube.com/C/Super Data Brothers. Until next week, I am Ryan.
I am Eric.
And we are the Super Data Brothers. Take care, everybody. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.